Hello. I'm here today to talk about the Foyer family. Foyer family has been in town for 6 generations. My great-grandfather, Adam Foyer, came over from, and I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, Oberruth, Germany. And he was born in 1853. He and his wife came over in 1880, immigrated to the U.S. Now, we're not sure how he ended up in the town of Orange. We can assume that there was another family from Germany, the Buchholz family, which were neighbors of ours down on Indian River Road. And we're surmising that maybe they knew each other in Germany, and one came over, and then the other one said to him, come to the lovely town of Orange. It's a beautiful little town, and maybe that's how he got here. But they immigrated in 1880. In 1889, he bought his first piece of land, and we have the original deed from 1889, and he bought it from a person named Ives down there. And the Foyer family lives down on the Indian River Road, Marshall Road, Lambert Roads. He continued to buy land. He bought land in we have deeds at home from 1903, 1910, 1912, 1913, and 1933, where he owned and operated a dairy farm. Adam had 3 children: Catherine, born in 1885, Bernard, born in 1887, and Theodore, born in 1888. Adam's wife, Mary, passed away in 1917, and Adam passed away in 1933. Then Bernard, which was my grandfather, took over the farm, and he also purchased land, and we have records of 1934, 1942, and 1956. He was also a fire warden from the early 40s to the 50s. Actually, 2 of the town's largest fires were our barns, burnt back in the 40s, early 40s. First one supposedly was struck by lightning, and they rebuilt it. And then the second one was rumored to be started by wet hay. And as we all know, you put wet hay away and it's spontaneous combustion, it creates heat and eventually fire. And that's the rumor of the second one. Bernard married Margaret, and they had 3 children as well. Margaret in 1913, Francis in 1917, and Bernard Jr. in 1925. Bernard Jr. is my father. Margaret, his wife, passed away in 1945, and Bernard Sr. passed away in 1977. Margaret, the daughter, not to get them confused here, Margaret went on to become a school teacher. She actually taught her brother, Bernard Jr., in the 4th grade, right here in the center school. That's what it was called back then, which is now, we all know it as Mary L. Tracy School. Now here's an interesting one. Back in the 40s, Margaret got married in 1942. In the 40s, apparently, if you were a married woman, you were not allowed to teach in the town of Orange. So she had to give up her teaching in the town of Orange. And but that was Orange's laws back in the 40s. So she went to Milford Educational System, where she became a guidance counselor. And then she was forcefully retired at the age of 70 by state law. So a few of those laws have been changed since then. Francis married a James DiCaprio, who served in the Marines in World War II. Bernard Jr., my father, served in the Army in World War II, came back, and then he joined the Orange Police Department in 1946. He worked through the ranks as sergeant, captain, and eventually chief. He retired as chief in 1976. Through his time, he also drove bus T for the Amity system. Back then, you either drove for Amity or you drove for Orange, and the buses were lettered rather than the numbers that they have on now and everything else. He also won Driver of the Year award one year. My father married Audrey, my mother, in 1947, and they had 3 children, Thomas, Susan, and myself, Donald. My father passed away in 1995, and just this past summer, we lost my mom at the age of 96. Tommy served in the Air Force in the Vietnam era, later came back and joined the Orange Police Department. Susan went on to become a teacher, and after 34 years of teaching in the Orange school system, she retired. She married Robert Smith. Of course, she was able to teach at that point when she was married. She married Robert Smith, and they have a daughter, Ashley, who resides just outside of Boston. Then it comes down to me. I've been a member of the Orange Fire Department since 1974 and continue to serve. I joined the Highway Department in 1977 under Tom Tanner, the Highway Superintendent, and Crew Chief Dominic Mickey Morazzini. My first winter here was the Great Blizzard of '78. We stayed here for 39 hours straight. And homeowners would actually call up the highway garage and have us come by, and they would make big pots of spaghetti or stew or whatever, and we would pick them up and bring them back to the garage so the crew would have something to eat. We were there for 39 hours straight, and we had one diesel truck at the time. All the rest were all gas jobs. And mine happened to be a 1964 Mack gas job, no power steering. Steering wheel was as big as a wagon wheel. And then those were the good old days. Shortly after that, Hurricane Gloria came visiting. And the eye of the storm went out right over Milford, Orange area. And I'll never forget being at the highway garage, and we walked out, and all of a sudden the sunshine was out for like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. It was beautiful. And that was the eye going over Orange and Milford. And I swear that she winked at us as she was going over. And she kicked our butts, and a lot of the town had no power for over a week on that. And then when I first came, we used for road treatment, we used the oil and sand. You would put a liquid down on the road, and you would cover it with sand and then mix it in. And that was how the roads were built back then. Then we graduated to a chip seal program, which is very similar. You put the liquid oil down, and then you put a crushed stone on top of it. And they lasted pretty long. They're pretty long. And now we've upgraded to pretty much reclaiming and paving most of the roads, get them in good shape. I married my wife, Barbara, and we had our son, Don Jr. Don is living in the old homestead that Adam bought back in 1889. He is a heavy equipment operator at the Highway Department, and Don keeps up the hay at the farm over there for our pet donkey, Dubu, and the goats. And Donnie has 2 daughters, Leah and Violet. Leah is a student at Sacred Heart University, where she's studying physical therapy. And Violet is a senior at the Amity High School, which she can't wait to graduate this June. And she's talking about going on to Sacred Heart as well. So that rounds out the 6 generations of the Foyer family for the town of Orange.
Fantastic. Well, you've had quite a few experiences being the head of the Highway Department. You do mention some of the biggie things. Are there any other times that were memorable down there that...
I can remember before I was in the Highway Department. I can remember when I was a little youngster. I remember the Marsh Hill Railroad Bridge was a wooden bridge. The old wooden planks on that. That had to be back in the 60s, so somewhere around there. Somewhere. And Marsh Hill Road was a two-lane roadway. It's 6 lanes now. Yeah. So a lot of progress.
And we were talking about 95 coming in that corridor. and I don't remember that.
I believe 95 was in the 50s.
Was in the 50s.
The 50s,
right.
yes,
We were
yeah.
talking about, again, the cutting off that whole part of Orange.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
some of the Salemis were telling us how they had to drive down through the gully.
There you,
come up the
yeah,
other
yeah,
side.
yeah, yep,
So,
yep,
wow.
yeah. We actually have a letter that my father and two aunts had petitioned the state not to have the exit ramps at 41.
Whoa.
So actually, it's a good thing the state didn't listen to them.
Yes, I was going to say, definitely. That whole
So,
corridor
yeah,
has definitely
yeah.
been developed.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
quite
Big
well,
time.
quite
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I remember cutting hay up there and growing corn and everything else, but no more.
No.
No more. Those days are done.
That's it. That's it. It's nice to have a little retirement years.
There you go.
Coming up. Coming up. That's awesome. Well, you've definitely been a viable part of the town, and I think that's important. And your dad he was amazing. He really was an amazing chief. Do you remember any of the stories? I mean, it must have been interesting him coming home at night and, maybe talking about what's going on in town and.
I remember years ago, it was, at night, maybe, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, something like that. My father and I were coming down Route 1, and we were at Route 1 at Orange Center Road. And then it was the old Connecticut National Savings Bank on the corner there. And I'll never forget, out of the corner of my eye, I don't know what made me look, I saw somebody run in front of the bank, and they had a row of hedges there. And he had a gun.
Oh my goodness.
And I saw him drop down. And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, somebody's laying in the bushes over there with a gun. So he swung around. The old Wilson H. Lee company was there, now where Home Depot is. So he swung around there, and he had a police radio. It was his own personal car, but he had a police radio in it. And he pulled up, and he spooked the guy. But the guy left the gun. It was a shotgun. And the guy ran into the woods, and he called for backup, but they never caught him. But it was a loaded shotgun. So he was waiting for somebody for a night deposit or whatever. So, yeah. But,
Good spotting.
yeah, it's just, I mean, you talk about, just happened to see it.
Wow. Times have definitely changed for the police department.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely changed.
Yeah. Yep.
They really have a really full-time job on that post road.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But no, the town has grown, and hey, that's progress.
It is.
It's
That's what they
progress.
say.
It's progress.
It is.
So, yeah.
We've been asking some people about the Bicentennial since obviously this is 50 years down the road.
Okay.
And just wondering if there were any kind of fond memories from that celebration.
I was 15 at the time. I be honestly did not get involved with it that much. I do remember the parade on Route 1. I remember sitting in front of the old firehouse down on Route 1 down there, the two-bay firehouse, and watching the parade. And that really is about all I really ever participated
15,
in it.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
It was a time for everybody really to pull together, but I think the parade was the real focus of
Yes.
the Bicentennial.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
firehouse too. You mentioned it was just a two-bay.
Two-bay firehouse. Two-bay firehouse. Yeah.
And
Yep.
then that finally got renovated and enlarged.
Well, the whole new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole new one got put up, and then the two-bay is just for storage now down there. But yeah. Yeah, that was there for many years.
Good, good. And even when the highway department, when you went on, have you increased the size of the?
Yeah, when I went on, there was only the 1, 2, 3. It was 5 bays over there, and now we had put the whole backside on with mechanic for the mechanics and all that. We now service all the police cars. Any town vehicle is serviced through the highway department now. Where years ago the police department would send them down to Bobby DeJoya's down there on Route 1. And, back then, but yeah, everything is serviced up through the highway department now.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Good. Anything else you want to add?
I think that's about it.
That was awesome.
I think,
My
yeah.
goodness. Do you guys have any questions? Yes, no?
What do you think was one of the most progressive developments that helped Orange to expand to where it is today?
Well, it was funny, I mean, years ago to see the old shopping centers come in when Sears came in down there on Bull Hill Lane and Route 1. That was Sears, my God, it was huge back then. And in fact, the front was the automotive. And I remember when they sold gasoline, they had a gas station right there at Sears. And then, you know, you had the Raymore and Flanagan now come in, that shopping center down there. That was the old Woolco down there. And yeah, when Wilson H. Lee, that got torn down for Home Depot. So yeah, and then up where used to be Western Electric, up there for Lowe's, and where Lowe's used to be now, it's now Amazon now. But that was Western Electric up there. So yeah, we've seen a few changes over time.
Yeah.
Over time, yep.
I still think, you know, the growth of the town, I think the big, you know, boom back in the 50s after the war, we're hearing a lot about that. And all of a sudden, all these neighborhoods just were developed.
Right, right.
But
yeah.
at the same time, you have to remember that Post Road was developing too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember when they knocked down the old Wilson H. Lee Tower. They had a big I-beam in front of a bulldozer, and he kept ramming it. It didn't want to come down, but it finally did.
What was that made of? It was like stone or brick or something?
Brick, but it had the steel pillars
Oh,
in it. Yeah. So it didn't want to come down, but it finally did.
One way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no,
So,
good
yeah.
town.
Yeah.
Good town.
Do you
Yeah.
have any fond memories? I'm trying to think of, with the other people we've interviewed who you've worked with in the town. You probably worked, I don't know if you were involved in it when Bob Iza was, but.
I was here when I was hired, and Bob Heiser was the engineer at the time, and Bob's a great guy. He really is. You know, I'm not crazy over engineers, but Bob is the exception to the rule. He's a great guy, and in fact, I'm still employed at the highway department now, and Bob came back for the second term. and I was with him, and he was just as sharp for the second term as he is the first term. Was the first term? Yeah,
Real
yeah.
hands-on guy.
He really is. Yeah, he really is, and he'll listen to you. You know, if you have a suggestion, he'll listen to it, and if he thinks it's good, we'll go for it. You know, he's not one of those ones that well, I'm an engineer, I know what I'm doing, and that's it. He'll listen to you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best things about the people in this town is everyone just works really well together, and that's their intention, is they want to be able to collaborate
and that's the small town atmosphere. And you know, hopefully we're not losing it, but you know, who knows in another 50 years from now what's going to happen. You know, it's just like here at the fire department. I mean, the fire department's been volunteer since 1925 and continues to be volunteer. And but it's our slogan is neighbors helping neighbors. You know, and basically that's what it is. So yeah,
And that was a whole other thing we didn't talk about, but maybe you can talk a little bit about the carnival.
The carnival, yeah. The carnival is the fire department's major fundraiser. I happen to be the chairman of the carnival for the last probably 15 years or so. Unfortunately, the chairman before got sick and couldn't do it anymore, so I took over. And we had our carnival last year after COVID, and which we didn't have the year before. And my God, it was unbelievable. The crowds, we haven't seen those crowds in 20 years, 25 years. It was unbelievable. Something we never expected, but yeah, it brought back memories of the good old days. But it was packed. It was packed.
It does attract a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah.
People come out for it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. So. Yeah, so that's scheduled for this year, August 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's on schedule, and we'll be there again.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
And it's always enjoyed by everybody in town. For
Yes,
sure.
it is. Yes. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Excellent.
Thank you so
Don,
much.
that
Very
was
good.
awesome.
All right.
My God,
All right.
you guys